Hello again. I'm Stephen Bauman, and I want to say welcome to the Idiosyncratic Nightmare podcast, the show where Michael Klein and myself make a portrait of the guest while we're interviewing that guest. Today, we're talking with a fantastic artist. If you are on Instagram, you know her very well. If you happen to see the billboard that she had in Times Square, you know her very well. Her name is Tanya Rivilis. And I want to jump into the show right now so we can hear her insights about artistic process and creativity, and also get a chance to see Michael and I make some aggressively average portraits of Tanya while we talk with her. For anybody who might not know you, how would you introduce yourself?
I'm a Tanya Rivilis, and I was born in Ukraine. Then I lived in Russia, and now I live in Germany, and also in Portugal as well. So I'm kind of like a person of the universe. I'm an artist. I started painting when I was 27, so not a long time ago. So I'm kind of at the beginning of my journey, which makes me kind of like feel very excited about this. And every day feels like it counts, like I try to learn so much in a kind of short way. So I love colors. I use a lot of colors in my art practice. My visual language is a bit kind of like a bold, colorful. I'm looking at my paintings right now, so I'm trying to kind of figure out what I'm doing actually. Um, and
Aren't we all?
is it enough? Or will you just stop me, okay? When right.
Tanya, I have
So
a
yeah,
question.
and okay, go on.
Yeah, when did you start painting? How long has it been? It's relatively new?
Yeah, so I'm 38 now, if you're trying to ask my age.
Not necessarily, but it's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of like 10, 11 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
And it happened kind of accidentally, like I moved to Germany and I didn't have many friends here. I had none of friends actually. And that time I lived in a place where kind of like was nothing to do, no active or cultural life. So
Mm.
yeah, that that trauma brought me to art.
Mm-hmm. So
Fantastic.
if it's new, then that means that there was like a bit of a life predating your art practice. What did that consist of?
I was like in media design, and like my university was also like I finished university about media design, so I was like mostly about the computers and 3D and animation and all this stuff, and the graphical design. So it was like kind of about art, but like nothing physical. So most of the stuff I did like digitally.
Mm.
Um,
We want to know, like, the whole objective here, right? The whole idea is that we get creative people like yourself to talk about how it is that they are creative, what they do, how they operate, and how they live that life that results in the work that they make. So, if you could, if you think it's relevant or interesting, uh, describe like a day, a work day in your life, in the sense that that also includes like
okay.
how you engage with your like creative process, either of ideation or actual painting. Just give us a rough overview of what that's like
Okay.
for you.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, since I'm working in two countries, I mean, like I have two studios, one in Portugal and one in Germany. So in Germany, it's where I am right now, is a small studio. So it's in my house. There is nothing kind of like going on. We're living next to the forest, so our friends are squirrels and, you know, some grandmas and stuff like that. So,
Girls
like
and
nothing
grandma,
is
got it.
going on here. Yeah. So nothing really going on here, but I probably should should talk about like how it's in Portugal, where I have a bigger studio, and it's in downtown, so it's in like historical downtown of a little fisherman city, like a little fisherman village, which is really
Mhm.
beautiful. And I usually just wake up, I go to grab some coffee, and I usually make some posts about that. Like I do some stories while I'm going to grab some coffee, and people know about that. And it's really cool because I just share all this little daily routine with people. Um, and then I just go to the studio. But I should say, before I go to studio, because we live in a very central city, like in downtown, I meet kind of like 20 people probably on my way. And with all these 20 people, I start talking, like you say, bon dia, and then, small talks. So the time when I'm getting to the studio is already kind of like 10:30, maybe 11. And then
Mhm.
I come to the studio and I sit on the sofa and probably procrastinate kind of like an hour or so. I wish I
What are
could,
you doing
I
to
mean, like,
procrastinate? Will be
I just
scrolling?
look at my, no, I just look at my painting. So I have this sofa, which is like right in front of the wall where I'm painting. And I just sit and I feel so stupid, but I just look at the paintings and I mean, like I could say that I'm thinking about something very smart and I'm planning stuff and like, but no, it's like in Simpson. I have the monkey probably playing the the. So I'm sorry.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right?
Yeah.
That is perfect moment. And
Yeah.
I tried on every podcast, like I had an episode with John Dalton, and I tried to be very smart in that podcast, but it sounds so not like me. And then I just decided, why do I need to pretend? I will just be me, which is kind of like easiest thing that you can do, right? Like pretending is
Mhm.
very difficult, by the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I decided to be me, and that's why I'm saying you as it is, the
Mm.
truth. Right. So after procrastinating, I finally, try to say, my brain starts saying, like, come on, just work, do something. And usually I do to warm up like sketches with color pencils. I have a lot of color pencil on my table, so I just do sketches. It's like nothing about likeness or something. I just do quick portraits with, like bold strokes and colors, etc.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
yeah, and then when I finally feel like, okay, now I'm ready to paint, it's lunchtime. So I go to eat lunch,
Mm.
and lunch.
Tanya, wait, hold on. This is like so. I feel so seen right now. Like I feel so completely and totally seen.
Okay.
Please continue.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I would love to be just that artist who paints. I feel so jealous when I look at other artists, for example, on Instagram. And this is
Mm,
actually probably the problem of social media, is that you
mhm.
kind of feel that all artists are so productive and they're painting all day long, while you lazy ass is sitting here and doing nothing, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel. But that's how it is. That's probably life. Well, yeah, and lunch. Okay, so I go to lunch, and Miss Portugal.
I
So
love that. That's the callback. Is like no, but wait, seriously, lunch, and then we continue the
lunch
call.
lunch is very important part of the day. Come on.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and it's Portugal. So imagine it's like you go to eat a fresh fish from the ocean with a good wine, some olives, some bread, some salad. You pay just 10 euros or something like that for all this menu. You're
Mhm,
happy. And after that, you need like to drink a coffee or something like. Okay, and then I start painting.
mm,
The time when I start painting, actually. Um, and usually I invite some friends or some models to my studio to pose for me, but not like posing, like in live painting or something like that. I usually make a photos. It's kind of
mhm,
easier for me to work from the photos because um, people just nowadays don't have much time to sit for
mhm,
like hours for you. And, it's also expensive to invite a professional model. So
mhm,
yeah, I just do photos of the friends or some strangers that I meet in cafes, and as a like a professional maniac. I'm just asking them to come to my studio with some Russian accent. Usually it really works. So they just
Yeah.
come to my studio and they pose for me. Um, yeah, and what else? Yeah, so I try to paint because I don't have windows in my studio, so I don't see kind of like what time is that. So usually it can be late. Then my husband is, calling me because my house is actually just 5 meters from the studio, from that building where the studio is. So he can shout from the terrace. And yeah, he's telling me that it's time to go home. And
Mhm.
Hmm.
that's it. I'm sorry if it wasn't that interesting as people expected, but yeah.
I think it's perfect. That's probably my favorite artist description of the workday possible.
Sorry.
No, it feels
Because
fine. It
it's
feels very
true.
real. It feels very relatable. I think that like every artist in their heart of hearts is secretly thinking that they're lazy. And while there's like a balance in between this, that I feel simultaneously that I'm very willing to like show up for work, to be like the
Mm-hmm.
good soldier and like to salute and go, I'm in the office at X time or whatever. I don't think that really my creative impulse responds exactly to that schedule. Most of
Mm-hmm.
the time, like not that anybody asked, but most of the time, like for my day, the real like painting and drawing, nothing happens before 12, first of all. Nothing. I'm like having coffee till 10:30. Then like
Yes.
after that I can like get into my studio and usually like admin takes over and I'm stuck in an admin role for a little while. And then I can think about whether I have a picture that works that day that I can work on, or I can make something meaningful or interesting. But it's not. I, I don't know how it is for all professionals, which is kind of what this show is about—a survey of like what everybody does. But I suspect that you and I are more in the main than we believe. Do you have what you would describe as rituals? Things that you do that you feel set you into a creative space? Or alternatively, is it all totally accidental?
I have these warm-ups that I do with color pencils, as I said. This is kind of
Mm,
ritual before I start any oil painting. So just to kind of like get the vibe, something like that. And I have one ritual that when I'm like, I have a burnout or I'm stuck or I'm not believing in myself, which happens really often, I
mm,
have a place which I call a place of power, which name is Cabo Especial, and this is in Portugal, and this is actually the end of the Europe. So it's a big cliff, and then there is ocean and the sky and nothing more. So it's just emptiness. And when I'm like, feeling shitty, I just go there. And I just sit there. So I don't know if it's a ritual, but this is something spiritual and something special for me. And when we had a workshop, all the participants of the workshop, we went together there. So it was kind of interesting to see their reactions because the place is really full of kind of energy or something like that. What else? Okay, the one thing that I learned from Andrew Salgado, which is a pretty famous artist and amazing person, is that when you want to procrastinate, and usually what people do, they just take the phone and start, checking the cat memes or whatever. And he suggested that instead of that, you put some book on the sofa, the place where you procrastinate a lot, or your lovely place. And instead of your phone, you just go to that place where you usually procrastinate and take the book and try to read a couple of pages instead of that.
mm,
So
mhm,
I don't know if it's if you call it rituals or traditions, but this is something that helps me to get back to the flow because our brain is actually a very weird thing that should be our friend actually, but somehow you have like enemy in your head which tries
mm,
to make you being lazy, eating shit, and doing nothing. So you kind of
mhm,
have to trick that. And one of the trick is that you just read the book and your brain is like, come on, like I don't want that anymore, just go and paint, do something else.
Mm.
And another thing that I've learned from some science podcast is that if you will try for at least a couple of minutes, just sit on the sofa and do nothing, like literally nothing, just sit and stare at
Mm.
something, then your brain would be like, what the hell? Like
Yeah.
uh for the brain, doing nothing is also a very difficult thing. It's like,
Yeah.
trying to meditate or something. So it will also bring you back to the working flow. Yeah.
Well, I love
Do
that
you
by
have
like
some
almost doubling down on doing nothing. Like
exactly?
you're like creating like a super boredom from which you actually have to
Right.
become motivated.
Yes. So yeah. I don't know if you have some rituals and traditions. Maybe they sounds more interesting than mine because it feels like I don't have any special ones.
Well, I notice first of all, I notice a theme that you have a very critical artist self-image.
Yeah.
But I I wonder if it's that I've seen so many other artists be lazy that I don't have that as much. Like I'm fully aware that a lot of us are like really difficult to motivate and not always like, by the way, none of us like work in the same way. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why you
Yeah.
can't ever look at social media and attempt to benchmark
Compare or something,
yourself
right?
by what
Yeah.
somebody else, like there's couldn't be more different about the way that we get into like a good space to work. For some of us, like boredom is anathema. For some of us, boredom is the key to the whole thing, to become bored. In fact, I remember listening to it's like a former colleague I used to work with him, Jordan Sokol. He was giving a
He's
speech at
amazing.
one of the graduations at the academy, and he was like, so you're doing this speech for all these graduates, and you need to say something profound to like launch them into their professional lives. And what he said that year was that you should find some time, like take some real time to just let yourself be bored. Like that's where ideas
Right.
come from when you're not, engaged always, in some other search or some like active pursuit of something. Like really letting yourself do nothing is a great way to like find an idea. And I definitely like see myself in that as well. It's always these kind of off periods where I'm like, and this is the weird thing about creativity. It's like I'm not sure that we know exactly how it works or what it is, in fact. Like loosely described, and by the
100%.
way, pardon me that we're interviewing you, but I'm like talking for 10 minutes. My apologies. um, but like I see it as this kind of accidental cross-referencing. Like I'm thinking of I'm driving to the garden shop to like pick up a Christmas tree, and my like just thoughts are just drifting in and out of my head. Nothing is actively taking place, and then something lodges there. I'm like, fuck is that? And and that could quite easily become the next painting that I make. I mean,
Exactly.
and I think being open to that channel, I feel like that's a very creative space for me. Like that's where I feel like I'm kind of tapped in to like my creative flow. And there's no conscious way that I can like engineer that. Even Jordan's great advice to like take some time and be bored. Quite frankly, even if I forced myself to be bored, there's no guarantee that anything would happen. So I can't conjure it on command, but like I can
Yeah.
also kind of respect the fact that that is how it wants to arrive, and I need to like make room for that. I mean, that's the closest I could come to having like any kind of ritual, would just be to say that I'm happy to make space for those unexplainable things to come through.
Right. Yeah. You know what else helps me? I just remembered.
Mm,
Is sport. I mean, like
mm,
I play tennis, like go jogging, all this stuff, and I've just noticed that this kind of like my meditation or my way to stop thinking and kind of like a reset for your mind. So I,
hmm
I think like I really believe that every artist should do something for their physical, some physical activities, no matter what is that. It can be meditation, jogging, swimming, tennis, whatever. Like before I was doing boxing and like martial arts, and it was fun because it was a bit different. But now I'm addicted to tennis,
Mm.
and surfing. Since we start living in Portugal, it's like a
Wow.
surfing time. So yeah, and sport is definitely something that really helps. I don't know if we still can call it like a tradition, but this is something that really helps to be productive and just like reset your mind, which we definitely need, because otherwise
Mm.
we'll be like, what?
Yeah. Michael, now I feel like you are probably the most realist in the main of the three of
Okay.
us. The sense that like much of what you make looks like the thing that it is of. Probably more than it does for me. Maybe more than it does for Tanya. What is your, how would you describe your interaction with like having an idea?
Oh, that's interesting. Usually good ideas, I think, for me, are usually derived from some life experience that I either see, feel, somehow witness, and then from there it starts to deviate, and you can conjure up kind of compositions, ideas based off of that. But if I try to invent it for me from my mind, just like for the sake of art, I feel like
Mhm.
for my personal kind of experience, it doesn't resonate with people as profound or the thing that they like about my work. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's just been my experience. But
I should say that Michael looks like a person who just wakes up like a vampire, just standing like this and going straight to the studio and paint. I don't know why, you just look so like an
that's fun.
artist.
That's funny.
I don't know.
Yeah,
So
I definitely don't do that. I get in the studio less and less now, but uh, I take it as a compliment.
no, but you really look like very serious, and
Okay,
I don't know. It's definitely, I said it as a compliment for sure,
thank
but
you.
it's just so funny to see how people judge artists from social media, for example, right? Like
Sure.
even I love, for example, I love following Colin Berry or Will St. John or Ruprecht
Hmm.
von Kaufmann, like one of my favorite artists,
Mhm.
contemporary artists. And I just, it feels like they just wake up and all they do is just paint and make masterpieces and beautiful paintings and go to the galleries and just having shows nonstop. And like that how we have this image, because
Mm,
nobody is posting shitty days on social media. Nobody is posting,
exactly.
like, this is the week that I did nothing and I procrastinated all day and I feel like, I don't know. Nobody's posting about that. I want to change it, actually.
That's
I
like
love
the
to
new
post
hashtag,
about,
shitty artist
yeah.
day.
We should start that trend, right? Shitty Artist Day. But it happens, and pretty often, I should say.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, everybody, absolutely. I mean, everyone's on the same page with that. No one's like knocking it out of the park every day. I mean, that is the big lie of social media. That's
It
really
looks
cool.
so beautiful, guys. Oh my God. I'm following the process. That's why it's so difficult for me even to talk, because you see, like, I'm
I
even
don't see
nervous and
anything.
I'm
I haven't
even
seen you in like 20 minutes, by the way. I've like been completely like
Deep dive.
dialed in on trying to make
so
this decent.
beautiful. God. Wow. My nose is so difficult and you got it. You really
No,
have
stop it. Your
like,
nose is great. No, no, no. Look, here's the thing. Noses, like a portrait is practically a nose. I mean, like I know we're all into the eyes and everything, et cetera, but like the nose is this sort of keystone inside the face. And like I build the whole portrait around it. Like I'm so much more focused on the nose than I am on like most of the other features. I feel like it projects outward from the face, like it has so much personality and characteristic,
exactly.
like
Yeah.
all the time I'm focused on the nose. But Tanya, we're getting back to you here, and I want
Okay,
to talk
okay.
about something uncomfortable.
Oh, I love uncomfortable
I want to talk
questions.
about failure, Tanya. I want to talk about failure. I
Yes.
want to talk about feeling failure. I want to talk about coping with failure. I want to talk about specific instances in which you feel that you failed. whatever you can bring to the table failure wise, I think would be really valuable.
Okay, let me sit more comfortable here because I think it will take long time. Do we allowed to cry here? Because that's gonna be
Yeah.
a thing.
You get like the tissue box, you bring in the tissue box.
I have it. I have everything is near. So,
Yeah,
um, so yeah, okay. Now it will be probably too honest. I don't know, but that's how I feel talking right now. So failure. As a self-taught artist, it feels like I'm having failures all the time because like I was not in the academy, I was not in art school, so it feels like I'm I'm kind of failure all the time. You know what I mean? So it's already a huge pressure on me, and it's already, believe me, the thing that I'm living every day and going to the studio every day with. um, and comparing yourself to artists who been to like art academies, and knowing what they're doing is also very difficult. And that's why, like, when I had my first workshop, I felt kind of I'm not good enough. And actually, this is like a motto of my life, probably. I'm not good enough for something all the time. And it's difficult. I mean, like, it's really difficult. It's a thing that I have to fight every day. Um, and I should say, like, I sometimes cry in my studio. And probably it's normal. Probably people do that sometimes.
yeah.
But what I'm probably like, I respect myself for that. I have a power to get back, even something happening or not happening as I wish. But I'm going back to the studio because there is no other way to live, because I already been chosen for that kind of like life, and I can't
Mm.
imagine myself without doing art anymore. So even like, even you feel shitty, even you feel like down, you still will go to the studio because there is no other options in your life anymore. And this is a nice, it's kind of
That
like a
sounds so dark,
beautiful
but I
pain.
really love the way you're framing it. Go on.
It was like a beautiful pain, like it's like
Yeah.
you, as my tennis teacher tells me, embrace the pain, embrace the suffer. So so that's what
Yeah.
I do kind of like every day. But like when I'm painting and when I'm into the process, and when my brain just stops thinking about any shit, I'm the happiest person in the world. And when I'm in my studio, that's the best place in the world. And I'm just like, I'm just
Mm.
thinking that it's worth it, whatever happens. And there was good days and bad days. I don't like this toxic positivity. It's not trendy anymore. And I want to talk more about, like, that people feel shitty sometimes, and it's
Mhm.
normal. So yeah. So, but I don't know, imposter syndrome. I don't know if I have it or not, but I feel that way very often. I wanted to say sometimes, but no, it's very often.
Yeah.
Is it like because I'm, like, is it because I'm a self-taught artist? Is it because I'm a female artist? I don't know. But
Mm.
is it because I'm just, traumatized? I have no idea. But that's
Yeah.
how I am. And yeah, and I'm still painting, which is cool. I don't know what I'm saying actually. I have no
No,
idea.
but
So
you're pointing at something that is like really critical, and the question comes up a lot, of course, for like being a teacher. You have a lot of students that are trying to become artists and experiencing the same things, and the question I get a lot is like, does it go away, right? Do you stop doubting yourself? And like I 100% across the board can say, like, I've never stopped doubting myself. I have, however, gotten so used to it happening that it's kind of like a
mm-hmm.
background noise. Like I don't really pay attention. Like I've heard it so many fucking times. Like it's white noise to me now. And I know, and also you come to know that like the only fuel that you have is belief. And so you protect that with your life, that you believe in the thing that you're doing. Because really, let's be real. The harsh light of day, artwork is kind of a dumb idea. Like, it's not like we're just making pictures of weird stuff. You know what I mean? Like, if you really ask,
Slow.
but you just ask, why does this matter? Like, why are you doing this? It's a really like harsh light to put it in. And I think creativity kind of wilts under that. So you have to possess and nurture that feeling of like self-belief, which obviously
Right.
that doubt that we're talking about is the adversary of.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. You know what helped me once? Because before I was even like overthinking even more. Can you imagine?
Mm.
Why I like I love art critic Jerry Zaltz,
Mm.
and he's a really funny guy, and I love the way he wrote once his tweet, and was like so for me at that time, because I was so worried like what people thinking about me. And he wrote something like that, like artists usually think that what other people think about them or their artworks. The truth is nobody's fucking thinking about you. And I was like, at that time it was kind of like a blessing, like I came from the heaven to me.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my god, this is so true, nobody's actually thinking about me. I'm so worried what I'm like creating, how people will get it, like how people, what people will think about this. And truth
Mm.
is like nobody's caring. People will probably scroll Instagram, see the picture for a couple of seconds, maybe like it, maybe won't,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
that's it. That's
Mm.
it. And I was like, God. And then, like Rick Rubin, another guy that I really love, and he's,
By the way, yeah.
yeah. I think it's like a spiritual Bible for artists now, right? Like everyone's
The
having
Creative Act, right? The Rick Rubin book.
the creative act. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember that he wrote something like that you should do it for yourself. Like that's the one person that you do it, that you do your art for. It's like you do it for yourself. And then when you do it for yourself, this is the honest relationship with the art you can possibly imagine. So I just
Mm.
try to do it for myself. And like I had a couple of like issues, for example, some with galleries when they asked me to do something else, like they asked me to paint something else that I didn't feel to paint. So
Mm.
yeah, and you just stop working with the gallery, because otherwise you're kind of like, do I say prostitute?
Well,
I
I
don't
think what
know.
you
Oh,
do is
can you
like,
cut it?
and
It's
back to
awful, God.
back to the Rick
I'm so
Rubin
sorry.
point though, that I think is really important is the other side of that, which is that, because I feel like personally, right? Now I'll try and give us the simple version. I want to connect with people through the work that I make. And the best way to make the work that I make, of course, as Rick Rubin prescribes, is to make it very much for myself. But in doing that, when you're really honest with your actual self, that's when it becomes universal. That's
Mm-hmm.
actually when people can really relate to it, when you're really being you, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because they're going to see
totally.
you really being you and be able to like see themselves, if they are. Not everybody will. Not every, by the way, you won't please all the people all the
Mm-hmm.
time, but the people who
True.
you could connect with, that's how you'll do it, is by
Yeah.
being your completely honest self, not by making a picture that like, oh, we kind of think everybody will like this, or God forbid, like that a gallery is saying, oh, you know what you're good at, do this. I mean, that's like obviously the opposite way. Now you can build a career of doing things the opposite way, and it's not that you can't be a successful artist by being not true to yourself, but
Right.
just it depends upon like what you would like your artwork to do. For me personally, if art is a Swiss Army knife, like I want to use it to connect with people. That's what helps me survive on a daily basis, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, I think, I still think that one of my best painting was created actually when I felt so sad. I lost like a tennis competition, and was my first ever competition, and I realized that I'm not a competitive person at all.
Mm.
I was so shocked, like the way my body reacted. I had all the issues with the health one day before the
Mm.
competition, and during the competition, I was like like a robot. I couldn't move. So I didn't know like it, but it happened. So I lost all the competitions I could at that day, And I came to the studio, and I would remember that I was just crying. I felt so shitty, but I created one of the most beautiful portrait I made.
Hmm.
And usually I don't like what I create, I'm very critical, but this one really was a great portrait. And, I created when I was so far away from pleasing other people, so far away
Mm,
from thinking what other people will like or not. Will they want
yeah.
to hang it on their wall? I didn't care. I was so focused on my sad, yeah, but feelings,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
created one of the best portrait. I still think it's one of the best portrait I made. So
Wow.
it
Yeah.
was, but then I had an idea that probably I should feel shitty all the time to create good
Obviously, you
portraits.
should engineer shittiness. Like you should completely.
And then I thought like about, like all the cool artists who was not very happy, like not only artists but like writers like Kafka or Van Gogh or something like that, like who was not very happy but created very beautiful paintings. So I thought like,
Mm.
maybe it's a key. Maybe I should just suffer all the time to create something beautiful.
Well, I
Yeah.
think maybe there would be diminishing returns over time. That misery would turn to depression. But I like the idea that you should feel something. I think probably is quite important.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. But for that, you need to be kind of like true to yourself. And another
Mm.
thing is that, by the way, that your blue portrait that you did recently, the blue and the red
Mm, mm,
background.
mhm.
Can I ask you why it happened? Like, what made you make it
Oh
these
man.
colors? I'm sorry, just
All right,
probably
Tanya.
random question.
Listen, just lay back, take a nap. I'll get into no. So there is not really a good short version of this, but it's a kind of a companion piece in a way to another painting. Um, well, you know what? Oddly enough, with respect to your story about losing a tennis tournament and feeling this misery,
Uh-huh.
last year I wrote a book, and the
Oh,
book in itself is immaterial in this. Like it was just the important part of it for this story is that it was another job that I had to do. And it was a kind of all-encompassing job that I had to do for many months. And at the same time, obviously, I run a Patreon page, and I do lots of different work for lots of different people in lots of different ways. And I had to keep all of that running at the same time as taking on this massive project. And for the first time in my life, I completely burnt out. I mean, like, people talk about anxiety and they talk about burnout, and it's like, God, I've had such a tough week. I'm like burnt out. That's not burnout. Like, it's medical, it's physical. Like, I
yeah.
was on medication for like 6 months trying to
Mm.
recover from this complete like physical and kind of emotional breakdown. And in that time, I made a painting. It was an idea that came to me. The idea, in a lot of ways, is irrelevant. The idea was I was looking at the Swiss flag, and it has this cross in the
Oh,
center of it. I just thought it was very fascinating. And then that kind of migrated into like images I was working on. Anyway, the painting was this really rigid story about like kind of two sides of yourself, like, and one kind of emerging out of the other one. And it was like really stark blue and red, and really like graphic gothic kind of imagery. And I was part of dealing with this anxiety and exhaustion and depression. I was exercising constantly, because the only thing you can do when you have anxiety, which is a fight or flight response, is you can like pretend to be listening by flight, by running away, by doing something
mm.
physical to distract your body and your mind. Um, and I was listening to and I was listening to Cyndi Lauper's True Colors. And so I'm
Great.
jogging out in like probably like 15 degrees below Celsius. And I'm listening to Cyndi Lauper. I'm just fucking crying my eyes out, completely just falling.
Wait, have you told
And
this story before?
wait a minute, no. There's more. There's more. So at this time of the year in Scandinavia, the sun, like if the horizon is here, the sun goes like this, like it just loops the horizon barely. So I'm looking at this like whisper, this like dead whimper of sunshine coming out through the snow, and just listening to Cyndi Lauper and cry.
Oh, I love it.
Oh my
And it
God.
dawns on me that like I don't need to be that binary. I don't need to have this blue versus red, this like conflict in my life. I can just let the chaos in, like let the color into my life. And that's actually what that painting and the group of work that I'm making now is kind of about. That it's about letting life into your life. But not that anybody's going to look at it and see, oh, that's your narrative. Nobody's going to understand it that way unless they listen to this podcast, and I'm explaining it that way. But that's like the place that the idea comes out of.
That's
Oh my
brilliant.
God. But this scene where you crying and the
That's
music
brilliant.
and oh God,
In
it's
slow-mo.
um
Going off. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
there was
That's
in some
great.
movie when the guy was crying because of the sunrise. Was it like I
I
don't
don't know. I,
remember
I
where
wouldn't
it
doubt
was.
it. I mean, it's probably a thing that is fairly experienced by a fair few people. But it was, and that Cyndi Lauper. I don't know if you guys like her or not.
I of
I
course.
absolutely
And
love
like
Cyndi Lauper.
yeah,
Um,
and yeah, this is great song. I mean, like I cried for like was it also many times probably, um, but it's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing.
when I'm drawing portraits, there's like two phases of work, and I don't know if you feel like this as well, Tanya. Like in what you do. So for me, there's like
Mm-hmm.
two tracks. There's like things that are so strictly observational, and it's like so important to like be there and in the moment with that subject, either in person or even from a photograph, but to be totally immersed in the qualities of that thing and use
Right.
that in the work. And then there's other works that I consider maybe more creative storytelling works in which I'm inventing as much from whole cloth as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you have these two tracks, or your creativity follows like one pulse?
No, no, I totally can relate to that. It's just the problem when I start painting, I don't know which track it will be. That's a problem. Like it's difficult to kind of, think that okay, now I'm gonna to paint and I will focus only, like on this subject and I won't go left to right and it will be that first one, the first track. So it's funny because even if I will do color studies, I don't know if you color studies for bigger paintings, by the way, but it's so funny to see the way I paint them. And when I paint the big painting, it never looks even close to what I painted in the color studies. I'm like, is it my brain so fucked up that I can't even, stick to the plan? Or is it like, why is that? I have no idea. But it's just so funny. I change, I don't know, maybe because of so many things are changing around you, right? Like even the hormones inside us are changing
Mm,
constantly, right? All the time. So it's so
mm,
difficult. I don't know, maybe just for me, but it's so difficult to stick to the plan. Um,
mm.
I don't know, some like chaos in my head. What about you? Like,
I no, I feel I've
oh
kind of
God.
made peace. I've made peace with the idea, and I feel like there's a dynamic that I rely upon understanding when I'm doing like plans for a painting. Um, like a good plan for a painting, I feel like, or even for a portrait. Like if I'm doing a portrait drawing and I'm doing a little sketch for that, I know that something that's in a space like this small on a tiny
Uh-huh.
drawing looks fine, but when you blow it up, that space becomes boring. You have to fill it
Right.
with something that is special. So naturally, like I feel like there's things that I could never see on the small scale that become crystal clear when they get larger.
Exactly.
So I've
Yeah.
I've learned for myself, and not speaking to anybody else's process, but just what works for me, is that I become confident with the loose idea in the study. Like I
Mm-hmm.
feel, oh, there's like something there, and I need to find it in the bigger one. Like nothing, I feel like
Right.
nothing is decided in the small one, except is there value here? Is there something in this that I can draw out? That's what I look for. How do you feel like? How would you describe like what you think the audience experience of your work is? Is that a question that makes any sense?
Oh my God. You know that, like, if you would ask me if the glass is half empty or half full, so I'm the
Yeah.
person who would say it's half empty. So
Yeah.
I would probably think that people don't like my works. I don't know. It's just like I'm so self-free. I can't explain that. It's probably coming from my childhood. I have no idea. But sometimes I think that they think is that I'm using these bright, bright colors because I don't have art education. Can it be like
Hmm.
that? I don't know. It just me sometimes. Like it's my stop laughing. It's true.
That's
It's just like my inner fears, like it's like
yeah.
you have some fears, right? So you sometimes think like, oh my god, please don't think about me, this or that. So that's what I'm thinking, people thinking about me. And I don't know, it's just that's how I feel. Even
Okay.
my voice changed. Oh my god, we should put.
Tanya, Tanya, I just want to encourage you. Your work is incredible. I know all these like kind of self doubts, come in, creep in, but you're doing incredible
Thank
stuff.
you.
Like, I mean, obviously, we still all feel that like the other artist is the genius and we're the fraud. I mean, that'll never go away. Um, but like, there is a certain element of being self-taught where I feel like it must, and as maybe you're just confirming this, there's always in the back of your head that like, oh, do I know what I'm doing? And I feel it's definitely something that I'm very happy to hear someone as accomplished as yourself talk about,
Hmm.
because I know it's going to be like a balm for people who are not, performing at the level that you are yet still feel literally the exact same thing.
Mm.
Is there a way that you could talk about how you cope with that and manage to be as productive as you are?
There are several things that I do, and I'm just looking at the painting right now, and I'm thinking like, okay, I didn't like the painting I started. Like when I started, it was awful, and I still thought there was like some potential in it. I usually ask at the beginning, I ask my husband because, like, he's closest person to me. He will tell me honestly if it's shit or not. So he would come and say, like, okay, this is not that bad. You probably should continue. Sometimes he actually saved a couple of my paintings, and one of that paintings were the one that won the William Locke Prize at Royal Portrait Society. Can you
Wow.
imagine? I wanted to destroy it because I didn't like it at all,
Wow.
and
Yeah, I
this
can imagine that.
painting won the main prize. I was like, how? I just didn't like that time. I made it and I wanted to repaint it or like, cover it with other painting or something like that. So I'm glad that I have a person who can, like just visit my studio or my, workspace and just tell me honest opinion. Um, Sometimes it can be like a very, like a tough one because he can say, oh, it's actually not good, you should better start something else. So you just like then listen to your inside voice if it's true or not,
Mm.
but I don't know. Another thing is that I delete, like, I don't know, like how you call it, the scratch out the paintings if I don't like it. So it happens a lot. I just don't make videos on Instagram about that. Like
Mm.
all these things that you don't see on Instagram and happens in my studio. It happens, but I just don't post about that. I just recently started posting that I'm actually, scratching out the painting that I didn't like and just starting over, because before you
Mhm.
just wanted to post only good stuff on Instagram. People should
Mm.
see only beautiful pictures and your best days. I don't know. I just go doing sport. If I feel like I'm doing some really bad work. Oh, and sometimes I feel like I'm losing the magic. I don't know if you have this feeling, but sometimes
Mhm.
when you make the painting and it's not good, you kind of feel, oh my God, I lost the magic. Like I lost the
Mm.
talent. I don't know if you feel that way, but sometimes I just feel like I'm losing the skill,
Mhm.
um, if it makes sense. But then I just need to go to, do something else, like do sport. Or once I
Mhm.
even switched to color pencils for the whole month because my oil paintings were not awful, but I didn't like anything I created for some times. And then I
Yeah.
decided, okay, if this medium doesn't work, I will just switch medium. And I start drawing with color pencils for the whole month. And what
Yeah.
it gave to me was really interesting and surprising, because when I returned to oil paintings, and because of the mechanic movements of the hand when you draw with color pencils or with any pencils, like that mechanical movement, that still stayed in my hand. So when I started painting with oils, I still had that movement in my hand, and it
Mm.
actually brought me some new kind of a brush strokes that I didn't expect will appear. So I started
Mm.
painting the portrait, but the brush strokes was so different. Like, it was different, like if I would draw with the color pencils instead of oils. So it was interesting effect. And then I thought that it's actually cool to switch the medium, because your brain kind of, like that automatic movement that you have with your brush stroke,
Yeah.
you're just switching, doing restart for your brain, and then returning back to that medium, and you have
Mm.
different kind of tools, in your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, does it make sense?
Wow,
Does it?
yeah, that's amazing.
We're
Okay.
coming to the point now where we have to recognize the professional that you are, and that you need to start advising people about things that will lead them to be more successful professionally. Is there a piece of advice that you would give to people who are building their creative selves, who are at the beginning of that creative journey, whether they be in an atelier or a university, or even self-taught? Are there reflections that you have that you feel you would have loved to have heard when you were starting?
Okay, yes, I have so many. So first of all, and it's usually what people like ask um other artists or like some established artists, is that like, how did you find your signature style, right? This is like the thing that people really
Mm.
want to have. And I found out that it has a beautiful analogy with the love. So what I mean is that when you're trying to search love, when you're trying to find your love of your life, it never ends well, right? Like you always will hit
Mm.
to, some shitty story. It will be like a disaster, whatever, whatever. But when you stop looking for love, love finds you. So the same is with the signature style. Like, all you need to do is just going out, and in this case, it's just experimenting, trying new things. So this how you find the signature style. That's worked for me for sure, because I was so obsessed with finding it, because I thought like, the great artists should have some like a signature visual artistic voice that people recognize right away. And it was like kind of like an obsessive idea for me for a couple of years. But when I let it go, and just try to experiment, try to find like out new mediums, new surfaces, new um, tools, then it started appearing. So for
Mm.
anyone who is looking for their signature style, just stop finding it, like stop searching for it, and just let it go, and it will find yourself itself. It will find you itself. Does it? Yeah, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
beautiful.
So the second one is that Jerry Zaltz, the thing that he said is like, nobody's fucking thinking about you, and this is the truth of our life. Just paint like nobody is watching. Paint for
Mm.
yourself, even if it's like you think it's a crap, or even you think it's like not worth it. Like, just do it. Even if you have weird ideas, just do it, because nobody cares really. Like,
Even if you're
everyone
just
is so
crying to
busy
Cyndi
with it.
Lauper in the winter, like paint that.
Exactly. Yeah, okay, so what else? Change the mediums, change the tools, because it really
Mhm.
helps you to find out, go out of your comfort zone for sure.
Mm.
Don't stick to something that you probably think, okay, it works for you, and then you will do it for the rest of your life. Go out of your comfort zone, try something else, because it should be always uncomfortable. Somehow it should be always a bit uncomfortable, a bit more painful than that comfortable feeling that you have. That also helps to reach next level anyway. It's just really nice to feel uncomfortable all the time. What else? Oh, don't compare yourself with other artists, especially in social media. You can compare yourself to artists that are your friends, that you know how they live, how they struggle, their pain, their traumas, just with that people. But don't compare yourself to anyone on social media, because usually it's 99% of the fake image that you have, because we don't see their bad days, we don't see their shitty works, we don't see the days when they're just, I don't know, like crying because they see a small sunset in north of Norway or somewhere. So it's just like we don't see that. But all people have bad days. Read read nice memoirs or books about other artists or creative people, because it will show you their story in general. You will see that the success didn't came out of nothing. It didn't came like in 2 years or something. You will see that the journey takes so long. It takes so long time. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of pain, suffer. Like just reading about like the whole life, you'll have the whole image of how it's difficult to sometimes reach the level that you think people just just born and immediately successful. It doesn't work like that. So it's really helpful to read some nice memoirs of great people and see that it was not that easy. Find your people if you can. I know that it's sometimes very difficult to find the people around you. Sometimes your family won't support you. Sometimes your loved ones won't understand what you feel, and it's normal. And just think about this journey as a lonely journey. Like anyway, you will be a little bit lonely in all your feelings, in all your thoughts and doubts and everything. You'll be still a little bit lonely all the time, even if you will have friends next to you, even if there are like a lot of artists next to you. Somehow you feel alone all the time, and this is okay. This is kind of like a part of journey. Read about art market and be like kind of check the trends, check the art market, because you still need to be professional and you need to see what's going on in the world. And especially if you're like, artists, so you need to check the art world, what's going on there. It's nice to be, smart in what you're doing. What else?
I feel like this is the first question I should have asked, and then I could have been quiet for the whole episode.
I'm so sorry. It just, like it happened with me, because like I had to go through this by myself. Like I just collected all these ideas, like all these thoughts that I just said.
Tanya, it's been an absolutely completely fun time, even with included all of the technical problems that we experienced. Was an absolute joy talking with you, and I really appreciate Michael, speaking for Michael and I, really appreciate you hanging out with us for a couple hours.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much, guys.
That brings us to the end of the show. I'm Stephen Bauman, and on behalf of myself and Michael Klein, I want to say thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Thank you to Tanya Rivilis for sharing her insights and time with us. And I very much hope that we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again.